Hello, I'm Dr. Steve Tashiro. Welcome to my natural autoimmune relief site. Are you scared, confused, and frustrated because you've been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition? You're on the medication, but you have side effects to the medications, or the medications aren't relieving your symptoms? Or perhaps you've not been diagnosed, but you feel awful, in spite of the fact that you've been to boatloads of practitioners, you've taken medications, tons of supplements, and you're still getting worse. If this is you, well, take heart. On this brief video, I'll be shedding some light on this often confusing, often misdiagnosed problem, why you struggle, and what can be done to help you. Let me share some information about my background. I've worked in healthcare for 43 years. My first degree in health sciences was a master's in nutrition, University of Bridgeport, 1982. I graduated from Palmer West Chiropractic College in 1998, and since then have taken extensive postgraduate training in functional neurology, functional medicine, applied kinesiology, mind-body medicine, and energetic medicine. My passion in practice is helping people with chronic, complex problems using comprehensive whole person care. Now let's talk about the immune system. Autoimmunity occurs when your immune system attacks your body. It's that simple. The immune system that should protect you from invaders is actually attacking your tissue. The only difference between the different types of autoimmune conditions is which tissue is being attacked. But the mechanism is the same. Your immune system is confused and it's attacking self-tissue when it should be protecting it. Now understand there is no cure for autoimmune disorders, but there are many natural protocols which can greatly improve the quality of your life and, very importantly, preserve your body from future attack and damage. So let me show you some examples of autoimmune conditions. So again, the only difference between these conditions is which tissue is attacked. The mechanism, the autoimmune system being out of control and attacking healthy tissue, is the key mechanism. Okay, if the attack is occurring on your thyroid, that could be Hashimoto's thyroiditis, where the immune system is attacking thyroid peroxidase enzyme in your thyroid. Or it could be Graves, when the immune system is attacking the thyroid-stimulating hormone receptor on your thyroid. If the immune system is attacking your blood, the term for that is pernicious anemia. If it's attacking your GI tract, that could be celiac disease, colitis, or Crohn's. If it's attacking your skin, we call that psoriasis or vitiligo. Scleroderma would be another one. If it's attacking your muscles, one name for that condition is fibromyalgia. Myositis would be another. If the immune system is attacking your joints, we call that rheumatoid arthritis. It could also be ankylosing spondylitis. If the immune system is attacking your brain and creating those white plaques, we call that multiple sclerosis. If it's attacking your pancreas, we call that diabetes. Most commonly type 1, but there's also a form of type 2 diabetes that's an autoimmune condition. So again, the focus that we should have is not on which tissue is being attacked, but why the attack is occurring. So let's talk about autoimmune statistics. Autoimmune disease increases every year in our country, and many of these cases are not diagnosed. So these are the people who have chronic unwellness. They've been to many doctors, they've taken many prescription medications, they're on tons of supplements, and they continue to get worse. The typical autoimmune patient who comes into my practice has a health file that is a foot thick. They bring in 2 bags, shopping bags of supplements, and they say, I've gone everywhere, I've done everything, and I'm still not well. In fact, I'm getting worse. Can you help me? So in order to help an autoimmune patient, we have to understand the basics of how the immune system works. So let's talk about the immune system. So we're going to categorize the immune system into two broad parts. Number one, the skin, the lungs, the eyes, and the gut, and the blood-brain barrier. So these are tissues that have means to protect the inside of the body from the outside. We call these tissues barriers. So for example, there are enzymes in the skin that keep microbes from getting into the body. Coughing is one way of the lungs keeping what's outside from getting in. The eyes have secretions, tears. The brain has a protective barrier called the blood-brain barrier. And then in your intestines, you have trillions of friendly symbiotic bacteria, probiotics, friendly bacteria that help protect the inside from the outside. So that's part one. The second part of the immune system are immune cells, different kinds of white blood cells. So I'm going to write this on the board. There's three types of immune cells that we want to talk about: Th1, Th2, and Th3. Now, Th1 and Th2 parts of the immune system ideally are in a state of balance. The Th1 side are the cells that do the actual attack on foreign invaders, natural killer cells, T lymphocytes. The Th2 side of the immune system are the B cells that produce antibodies that tag the foreign invaders. So if there's a subsequent invasion of the body by that organism, the antibody has already tagged that organism, so the killer cells, T lymphocytes, etc., know exactly where to find it and how to get rid of it. Now, the Th3 side of the white blood cells are called the T regulatory cells. And these are the cells that make sure that Th2 and Th1 are working together and not getting out of balance. And vitamin D, by the way, is a key nutrient for supporting the health and function of the T regulatory cells. If you are vitamin D deficient, that is a key player in the onset of this problem of autoimmunity. So the Th3 cells coordinate and balance the activity of Th2 and Th1. In autoimmunity, what happens is one side becomes dominant. Let's say you have a Th1 dominance. This is what that means. In Th1 dominance, the natural killer cells, T lymphocytes, and other cells become overactive, overaggressive, and they attack in a way that damages not only the invader, but the host tissue. If we have a Th2 dominance, that means that the B cells are producing too many antibodies and too many substances and tissues are being tagged, which eventually are attacked by the cells, the killer cells, the lymphocytes. So we find Th2 dominance typically in people who have chronic multiple sensitivity, chemical sensitivity, a lot of environmental allergens. The most common autoimmune condition now in the US is Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and that typically is a Th1 dominant kind of problem. All right, so here's the problem. The immune system is dysregulated. It's out of balance. It's attacking tissue it should protect. In order to help this person in a way that addresses the cause, we have to find out, why is the immune system not doing what it's supposed to? Why is it confused and attacking tissue it should be protecting? So let's look at some of those causes. We call those causes autoimmune triggers, and as you can see, those can occur in two broad categories. You can have dysregulation, which means certain organs, organ systems in the body are out of balance and not working properly. Or you could have an active antigen or a germ or a molecule that shouldn't be in the body, and the immune system is attacking it to try to get rid of it. Let's talk about dysregulation. Chronic inflammation. Inflammation is like a fire in the body. Acute inflammation is if you sprain your ankle, the ankle swells, gets painful, swollen. That's like a fire localized in that area of the body. And eventually the inflammation subsides, of course, and the ankle heals. In chronic inflammation, that's like when a forest fire occurs, lightning strikes a tree, sets the forest on fire, and then it rains and the fire goes out, but it's not totally out. There's an underlying burning that still happens. So that's like chronic inflammation. It's a slow burning fire throughout the whole body. And the primary cause of that, there are many causes, but a primary cause is imbalances in our diet with an overabundance of omega-6 fatty acids, not enough omega-3 fatty acids. Now, there are many other metabolic causes of inflammation, but that is one very common one. Bad blood sugar. If we have blood sugar levels that are dropping too low, creating low blood sugar, or spiking too high, causing insulin resistance, diabetes, prediabetes, that is tremendously unsettling to the immune system and can be a trigger for autoimmune reactivity. Bad adrenal glands. Your adrenals are your stress glands. When they get stressed, they ramp up the production of their stress hormones, but over a period of time, it starts to deteriorate, weaken, poop out. So we call that syndrome being tired and wired, and that can set the stage for an autoimmune problem. Hormone imbalances, testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, the three estrogens, progesterone, DHEA, thyroid hormone. So if any or all of these hormones are out of balance, then that can be what causes an autoimmune problem to develop. Neurological imbalances, meaning how your brain and your nervous system is working. If the brain is not functioning optimally, one side effect of that could be the vagus nerve, which regulates internal organ function, does not work optimally. And that can set the stage for a biochemical imbalance in the body, which then sets you up for autoimmune reactivity. Pregnancy, because of the sudden shift of hormones, can be a trigger. It's a very common trigger, actually, for autoimmune problems. I've talked to so many women who have come in and described their symptoms. Often it relates to the thyroid and the fact that their symptoms first occurred at their first pregnancy. And ever since that first pregnancy, they haven't felt good since then. So that's an example of hormone imbalances. And then low vitamin D. Vitamin D regulates helps the Th3 system regulate the Th1 and Th2. So if that's not optimal, then that can set the stage for autoimmune problems. Then we also have antigens. Antigen is a foreign molecule or a germ that gets into the body, and as it's supposed to, the immune system starts attacking it, but in the process damages the tissue where that organism is located. So we're talking about chronic infections, virus, yeast, parasite, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, especially infections in the gut. This is a common place where infections occur. They often are silent, but they're still triggering the autoimmune problem. Food sensitivities. Eating foods that our immune system thinks are foreign and therefore attacks can set the stage for autoimmune problems. The most common ones being gluten, soy, and dairy. Environmental toxins, PCBs, plastics, herbicides, pesticides, Roundup. Our environment is loaded with toxic substances. Over 70,000 toxic chemicals are used in industry and agriculture every year legally, and many of these find their way into our body and set up the stage for an autoimmune problem. Heavy metals, mercury, lead, aluminum, arsenic, they're present in the environment and different substances that we're exposed to on a daily basis. These can be the original trigger for an autoimmune problem. Electromagnetic fields. These days our environment is saturated with electromagnetic fields, whether it's from high tension lines, cell phones, TVs, computers, and these can create a disturbance in the body that leads to autoimmune problems. Leaky gut. It's now recognized in scientific research that a leaky gut is hand in hand with an autoimmune problem. So let's take a look at that because this is such a key part of understanding autoimmune reactivity. So this grid which I've drawn represents the lining of the intestine, the inside lining of the intestine. There are gaps between those lines. We call those gaps tight junctions. The tight junctions are the spaces where the cells that make up the lining of the intestine fit together. And if you eat a food, the food is broken down into small particles, and then the tight junctions open up so that small particle can get into the bloodstream, then it closes. But what happens with autoimmunity is that tight junction becomes damaged. It's like having a screen door that has a big rip in it, and that allows bugs, cockroaches, etc. to get into your house. So let's say that you're sensitive to gluten because you have a gene for gluten sensitivity. When you eat gluten, when it gets to your intestine, your immune system sees that and thinks it's foreign. And so an inflammatory immune cell called cytokine attacks that gluten and in the process damages the lining of the intestine. So now you have a compromised gut lining, and that allows even larger molecules to gain access to the bloodstream. So now you have molecules of gluten, a protein in wheat, in the bloodstream. Those same cytokines in the bloodstream will attack that gluten in your blood. So now you have an inflammatory process that's circulating throughout your whole body in your blood. Now let's talk about how this impacts the health of your brain. So here's your brain. It's surrounded by a membrane called the blood-brain barrier. These inflammatory cytokines are circulating around the environment of the brain. And they damage the blood-brain barrier, gain access to the inside of the brain, where the microglial cells, these are the immune cells inside the brain, react to those inflammatory cytokines. So this creates inflammation in the brain, a fire in the brain. So this creates what we call a bad brain, characterized by brain fog, poor concentration, poor memory, depression, lack of motivation, and as I said earlier, this can also impact the function of the vagus nerve, which is stimulated through the frontal lobes, and the vagus nerve controls all the internal organs. So this can give rise to a whole host of system-wide symptoms, like incontinence, constipation, problems with any of the internal organ function. So autoimmune disorders are the third leading cause of illness and death in the world. You can see why, because this can compromise the function of the entire body, including that system which controls the body, the nervous system. So let's talk about how we go about supporting you if you have an autoimmune disorder. So our approach to helping people with autoimmune disorders is called comprehensive autoimmune support. Now, the conventional healthcare system supports autoimmunity, treats it with steroids. Steroids are anti-inflammatory, but at the same time, steroids suppress immune function. What we want to do in a holistic approach is address the underlying causes. And so our approach entails the following steps. We have to identify and remove the triggers, the dysregulation, the organs, systems that aren't working properly. We have to identify those and support them, help stabilize their function. We have to identify the antigens that are triggering the immune attack and address those. We have to determine which side of the immune system is overly aggressive. Are you Th1 dominant? Are your natural killer cells, T lymphocytes, too aggressive? Or are you Th2 dominant? Do you have too many antibodies being produced? We have to identify that through specific testing. Then we have to reduce the stimulation of the side that's too active, increase support of the side that's too weak. And just as a segue, a lot of the patients that come into my office with autoimmune problems, as I said, they come in with bags of supplements. They're often taking supplements that are stimulating the part of the immune system that's already overactive rather than the part of the immune system that's underactive. So they're essentially throwing gasoline on their fire. We have to support the T regulatory cells. We do this primarily through specific nutrients, vitamin D plus other nutritional supplements as well. Then we have to support the repair of the target tissue that's been the target of the autoimmune reactivity and help support that tissue for repair, whether it's your thyroid, your pancreas, the joints, cartilage, etc. Now, one word about testing. Proper testing is essential in understanding how we have to approach this pattern. So in that end, we use traditional lab testing, blood, urine, saliva, and stool, sometimes hair. And that's useful information, but there's a huge downside to that, and that is that a lot of the problems that are creating autoimmune reactivity are not in circulation. They're actually inside the organs, in the tissues, where the body sticks them in order to survive. And so we need a method that allows us to look inside organs, inside the brain, inside the liver, inside the intestine, to see what's there that's actually setting the stage for autoimmune problems. And we use in-office testing to that end, applied kinesiology, bioresonance testing, and a highly effective system of assessment and support called field control therapy. In order to benefit from this type of care, though, certain requirements have to be met. Number one, very often, I'd say almost always, we're asking patients to make lifestyle changes, how they're eating, how they're managing their stress, their environment at home and at work, because there are so many environmental stressors that may be compromising the immune system. So if you're unwilling to make basic lifestyle changes, our program wouldn't be of help to you. Understand that insurance, including Medicare, covers only a small portion, if any, of the cost of this care. Most patients can get the care they need in our office with as little as $250 to $300 a month. But at the second visit, I go over the recommendations for support, including the financial obligation, in great detail. It's all written out, so there's never any confusion about what the financial responsibilities are. So I want to thank you for taking the time to receive this information, but understand that information alone isn't going to help you change your life. To change your life and your future, you have to take action. So if you haven't already called to schedule that first visit of our 2-visit offer, please pick up the phone and give us a call right now. The phone number is on this page of our website. And also be sure to look at the testimonial videos and the written testimonials. These are other patients that we've helped with our protocol, and I look forward to meeting you and helping you as well. So thanks for tuning in.